Well, good evening once again to our viewers, listeners, wherever you are. This is thecricketshow.org, and there you can join and see our videos. I'm happy to welcome Coach Jatin Patel to our post-game review, post-game chat of the India-New Zealand match from earlier today. So, Coach, India and New Zealand, this was another day for the record book. The Indian Express is still rolling along and roll right over another victim. Records and runs were the highlights. India's top 5 batters continued along their well-trodden path. Kohli scored a 50th record century in ODI of 117 runs. Iyer ably assisted with his 105 century, and the two scored a 163-run partnership. Sharma added 47, and Gill, ever the proficient person he is, scored 80, and Rahul also chipped in to amass a record-breaking India total runs for 397 for 7 wickets. The highest total runs scored in a World Cup knockout match. New Zealand bowlers had no answers as they were steamrolled mercilessly. The New Zealand batters were slow to rise to the challenge when they batted, although Daryl Mitchell steadfastly toiled and tried, scoring a century himself of 134 runs. He was ably supported by Kane Williamson, who scored 69 in a 181-run partnership. That quieted the blue wave of India's supporters, and indeed, Team India players were biting their nails. But thanks to a record-breaking 7 wickets for 59 runs, Mohammad Shami dismantled New Zealand. Batters and the blue wave heaved a sigh of relief as the final New Zealand wicket fell at 327. India won by 70 runs. New Zealand failed to stop the Indian Express. Later tonight, South Africa and Australia will do battle to be the one team, to see which one can be the one team to put the skids under the runaway Indian Express. Coach, that's how I saw that. A wonderful, exciting game, a little slow in part, but nonetheless, it was well worth my night's sleep to see that match. How did you see it?
I see the live too, and as expected or I predicted yesterday in a pre-game show, that the winning the toss and batting first will have the huge advantage, and that is what India adopted. I also told you that as the match progresses, it will be difficult for batsmen to score runs. And India could have made more runs, but they at least succeeded their plans, and they had some hurdles to face. The biggest plan, as I predicted yesterday, that they will try to play out Bolt and Santner both without giving wicket. They succeed. That remains the third effective bowler, Team Saudi, and India did manage well for that bowler too until I think 7 overs. After that, Saudi got the 3 wickets, but most of the wickets is because of the current condition at the ground at that point, where we have seen little bit trouble for Virat Kohli before he hit the century, as well as Gill's retired hurt. Means these are the things happen because of the local condition. As I told you, like if you're starting in a afternoon or evening, there should be the heavy, humid condition, which is very difficult for the batters to stay on the crease and keep continue. At the same time, as we proceed towards the late night or late evening, you are expecting the dew. So everything was there, but India planned really well for it, and it's all went well. Lots of records. It's on the brick, I will say. Kohli put that 50th century. That's a huge one. Number two, Rohit Sharma is having a spree about the highest sixes in a tournament, and that is ongoing. Overall sixes in World Cups as well as in a single event, both are on record mark. Same thing with the bowling side. Once you put that score 397, which is also highest in the World Cup playout situation, it is very difficult for the team to come back. And as I told yesterday, this ground is small, so they will go for the more boundaries. And that is what both teams did. Plenty of boundaries. They started taking care of it. So if you look at it, there is not a single run out. And that's what we expected.
Yes.
Giving the New Zealand, as I said, underdog, and they played like underdog. You cannot just rely on front 2, 3, or 4 players and do well.
That's right.
And that is their little bit drawback for this team from the beginning of the tournament. Because if you recall, they had a really tight game against Australia when they were lost by 1 or 2 runs. Very close margin. It was right there, but they could not win it. So this was kind of place. India was never on panic.
Right.
But I see that after the scoring 397, they may be a little bit relaxed, thought like this is the score, we have it in pocket. And because of that, we see the sloppy fielding, easy runs went by, one simple catch, I think 2. So if you build together all these things were going on, but again, they have the bowler who can take care of the business. And when time came, as soon as this 3rd and 4th wicket fall, and after that little partnership, and as soon as you got the 5th wicket, they managed to keep the pressure up. And New Zealand has no way to get out. So that's one of the game as expected went through. India is still unbeaten.
Yes.
And now the most danger man, any batsman to scare about in this World Cup is Mohammad Sami.
Yes.
He grabbed those 7 wickets. And remember, when he came back from the bench in this World Cup, the first game he played was against the New Zealand, where he took the 5 wickets and become man of the match. So this is the second performance.
Okay.
First game, he had a wicket on the first ball. Today also, he had a wicket on the first ball. So that's like very hard to read this bowler who is in form and keeping all variation possible because of his grip and the condition he is using, because he knows these grounds very well. And that's a beautiful thing to have it. It was a little bit off for Siraj. He did really well ball today. But when you bowl quick on this small ground, even slight touches can went by for the boundaries. And that is what you have to pay. The huge risk on this small ground is you can't bowl slow, you can't bowl too quick, because both can go in a different direction. So that's a huge win now. So it will be showdown is going to be the next game is South Africa and Australia. I will definitely go for Australia because it's a time. South Africa has a history, long history for 30 years. Not sure what the people talk about like this year. They are going to change with semi-final, but I'm not expecting that way because every World Cup in last 20, 30 years, they're doing same thing. And now this one is, I believe the Australia has a more weight. They have the better batting lineup. Looks like everyone is fit. So there will be a choice of players to pick. It will be headache, but it's better to have it. And then you're playing in Calcutta, where you have 2 good spinners for Australia. And I will not be surprised if the South Africa can go with the 2 spinners, Maharaj and Vamsi. both will be included because that is the pitch you are expected to take turn. And that will be a beautiful thing to say. But again, whoever wins the toss in Calcutta will definitely have advantage to proceed and move forward.
Well, Coach, before I get to the Australia-South Africa match, some more observation on the India and New Zealand match. Or how is it? How do you explain I think that the relative speed of the Australian bowlers and the New Zealand bowlers and the Indian bowlers were about the same. But yet I noticed that the Indian bowlers were able to move the ball a lot. The Australian bowlers did not, my apologies, the New Zealand bowlers, they just could not, I saw no movement on their deliveries. It was just straight through, high, low, but no movement. Siraj, Shami, and the third, and Bumrah, they were moving that ball quite a lot. And the other thing was the New Zealander, the opening bat for New Zealand, both of them, Conway and Ravindra, both these batters seemed always to be attempting to play on the back foot. None of them tried to play on the front foot where they would have been able to cover the delivery. They were always playing back as if they were intimidated or afraid of the rising ball, maybe. But that's why they got out, because they got out playing on the back foot, playing late, and they were pushing that ball right into the palms of the slip fielder, or they were making some bad shot. This shot selection was very, very poor for players who we see as very professional player who we see rising to the top. Now, I think Ravindra in particular, somebody needs to take him to one side and really, point to that, look, you can't be playing that kind of shot selection when you are bowling like this. But to give credit to the Indian bowlers, they sure swung that ball a lot. Bumrah, Shami, and
if you look at this bowling, these three bowlers can be a headache for any batsman in this World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing is they are bowling with the game plan. That's number one. All are doing very similar thing except little bit variation from their wrist and grip. They are very consistent to confuse the batter. When we say, I normally say bowler doesn't take wicket, batsman will give you, and that is what usually happens. What the bowler has to create is moment of discomfort. So how you can do it? There are a few factors. Number one is definitely line, length, direction, the movement. Then you got the space, right? And those sort of variation will create a doubt in a batter's head. Few ways. Number one, whether you want to play or not. You want to play with the cross bat or straight, means going behind the ball and play if you want a straight bat, right? And then the third difficulty is front or back. Now, if you look at these first two New Zealand openers, the way they get out today, the bowler did not give them the room to go front or back. So what the batsmen have tried is like a stand and deliver, but they bring the bat really late instead of bringing in front of them. And because of that, both got nicks.
Yes.
And that is what these bowlers are targeting. They know that if we don't give that room and if we create a mess, they will just throw the bat. And that usually happens. So when you are bowling with the proper plan And these all three bowlers, the way I look at it today, I would say all three had a same agenda. Same agenda. They did not try something new. They wanted to force the batter. But then New Zealand was so lucky when they had a Mitchell and Ken Williams was batting for the third wicket. They had a lot of luck behind. There are a lot of shots they did not play but went for the runs, right?
Yes.
Some missed times and all those. But those are the things is a part of the game when you play the one days or the limited over like a T20. It does happen. But then they were in a patience. They did use the bowler, the spinners, wisely, I will say. Depends on the situation. And they were able to manage the stress out situation with the same five bowler. We did not see the six bowler today. Even they had a backup plan ready, believe it or not. But the way it went, even they were New Zealand has a little bit advantage in between when the third wicket partnership was ongoing. India did not stress out and stayed panic. They were waiting for that moment. Let's have the one wicket, and that will open the gate for them. And that is what exactly happened. And eventually, the bowlers keep continue with the same strategy. And this is the beautiful thing to see down the stretch. When you are heading after 40 overs, usually expect the other team going for the runs. Over here, the situation was different. Like Kuldeep Yadav, last 2 overs, he did not give too many runs, and he grabbed the one wicket. That's a turnout. Siraj was somewhere in the middle. He gave like 20 plus run on over. But when he came back after the 45 over to finish the game, he was a little bit tight. Sammy stayed with Sam and Bumrah. So this is the bowling attack that India has right now. You cannot stay relaxed or sleep because every bowler is coming with the clear intention to be a champion. And that is the reason India is going through without losing single game. And I believe, or I can predict, India is going through winning every game, which is never happened in any World Cup. This will be the first time champion has played all games without losing anyone.
But did you see, is there a flaw in the New Zealand quick bowlers? Why they could not get the same kind of movement off the pitch the way the Indian bowlers did?
Well, that's depends on the wrist work and the seam positioning with the wrist, right? It's a little bit different here. New Zealand is more going towards the quickness and short pitch deliveries more often because that's how they train in New Zealand. The small grounds, sideways boundaries are smaller, so they don't give you much room to play square. And that's just like kind of strategy we're trying. But over here, if you look at it, a lot of straight sixes means long on area. There's a plenty of sixes, even in quick bowling. India was able to. There are some of them, they took it over the mid wicket. And that is this team has a strength because this team is built up of the 6 good quality batsmen. If you let any of these batsmen to say, let's say 10 overs, I think they'll score the century on you.
Well, I'm amazed at the crowd. Well, I shouldn't say amazed, it's expected. And they did show up and they really did make the most of the match. They enjoyed it to the fullest extent, although it was very noticeable in that period where New Zealand appeared to be putting together that very high run partnership, that the crowd visibly took it down. But eventually, when one wicket fell, then you could see the exuberance building, and it became really, really loud and noisy and very, very appreciative. But, occasionally the camera panned the crowd, as you know, and there was 2 shots, and as it so happened, it was of the same lady. That first ball that Kohli took, which had he not nicked that one, it would have been given out leg before because it would have hit the wicket. But it nicked the inside edge of the bat. And when the appeal went up, the camera focused on this lady's face, and you could see her mouth went. She was so, well, the disappointment was there. And of course, when the decision came that it was a not out, then suddenly the face lit up. You know, the camera work there was fantastic in catching that. But nonetheless, the crowd was there. The crowd was very happy, and they were well and truly into the match. So we will see what happens tonight. We'll see.
So that's like a common thing to see, that the fans in India get emotional.
Mhm.
And because of the ground situation, they may be excited and become sensational if the team is doing well, which is common. If the home team is playing, home team, they are the one cheering up. And when they have the downtime or they're under the pressure, they stay mute. Or sometimes they are disappointed or not happy with the things going on, all sort of things. But in either way, this particular team feels it's their true support. Because even the New Zealand was scoring and the crowd stayed mute, means they are sending the signal to the players, hey, we are not happy about it. We got to do something more, better than what you are doing right now, right? So it works the both way. And because of that, the crowd is a huge impact. Any level of the sport, if the crowd is backing you up and crowd is supporting your team, then the players get upbeat. And they really like to have that excitement going on and to do perform well. And this is like half of the crowd than what we expect in the final, because that will be in Ahmedabad. It's like 135,000 we're talking here. Not only that, this will be the home ground for, I think, Bumrah. Gill played for the local league, and he has all big scores and innings in IPL in Ahmedabad. Then you got the Ravindra Jadeja. He's also coming from this area. Hardik Pandya is injured. But if you look at this momentum shifting and the support the Indian team has in Ahmedabad as a home ground, it will be the huge. And I will not be surprised that few more records will be broke in this final for sure. In terms of the batting, the runs they score, sixes will be a little bit low number than the Mumbai. Mumbai was a small ground, so you can expect more sixes. But hitting sixes in Ahmedabad will take about 20% more power and the seriousness to clear that ground.
Yes, that it was certainly a match well worth, well worth staying up late for, because we, right to the end, you still had that mindset that, you know, New Zealand, they are behind. You know, they needed to get 10 runs in the last, what,
13, 16, 16 overs, last 16, yeah, 10
right.
plus, yeah.
And you could see that it's possible because they had so many wickets in hand. Of course, that's before the Indian bowlers got to work. But, you know, it still looked as if there was a possibility. So that made the match really interesting all the way till the final wicket fell.
I will say it was not a big concern for Indian bowlers if you look at their body language, the key part of the game, where your the psychological or mental strength comes, which is reflected on the body first. If you look at the body language, the way the Sammy runs is like a mad horse. He's coming crazy to the crease and deliver. Similar way, Bumrah and Siraj, even they were losing, some runs were going against their will. They did not expected those boundaries, some of them, but they keep continue with their proper mindset to make sure they are delivering with the same intensity, same aggressiveness. They did not stay relaxed or they did not try something different. They keep continuing what they were planned to do for this game. And that is where the success stands. And this is the most important thing at this level of the game. It's all about your mental fitness. If you are mentally fit and if you can keep your mindset proper, then the things can easily go your way. And that is the huge advantage India is going to enjoy in the final.
I see that there is a reserve day set aside for this semi-final.
Yeah.
Which I guess there was one for the previous World Cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that the forecast though is there's a possibility of rain coming up for the Australia South Africa match. Very likely.
Yeah, that is the eastern part of India, and you can expect the showers. And we have to see if it can clear up and go through the whole game. If not, then this can go on an extended day. But whatever happens, it will benefit India at this point because they at least have a one extra day rest compared to whoever is coming from the second semi-final.
So, okay, we call this post game as one unit, and we will take the pre-game as a second unit. In which case, that might give Leon a possibility of getting in. So, thank you for staying with us for this post-game review. We will take a 5-minute break, and we will come back with the preview of the South Africa and Australia match.
Good evening, Coach, and good evening to you, Dennis. Wonderful game today. Nevertheless, it was a good match, but the better team won. The semi-final between India and New Zealand. New Zealand, well, they lost the toss, and India decided, well, I'm going to be batting. Scored 397 for 4. Of course, King Kohli, he was on top of his form. He made 117 from 130 deliveries, included, which was his 50th 100 of the in this format of the game, and Iowa 105 from 70 deliveries, and Gill got 90 not out, got 80 not out. Saudi, he took 3 for 100, while the New Zealand replied with 327 with 48.5 overs. I felt Mitchell 139 from 119 deliveries, while Williamson got 69 from 73 knocks. Shami was on top of his forms with a massive haul of 7 for 57, and India winning by 70 runs. It was a match that India deserved to win, although at some stages they had some sloppy feeling, dropping some catches and allowed a number of boundaries which should not have been. Mitchell, he got a hunt. Shami, he bowled like a king, got 757, and deservedly India looked the better side today, and they were the winners. It was a wonderful show, and they deserve to be in the finals against whoever comes out of the match against Australia and South Africa. All in all, it was a wonderful game. Two sides fighting down to they're fighting their best to win this tournament, but India came out on top. And I would say that I thought that India, they played a better match and deserved to win. We look forward to see what will happen with Australia and South Africa. And crowd got their money's worth. It was a wonderful, wonderful day's play. And so this will prove that 50 overs, 50, the ODIs is not dead, but very much alive. And looking forward to a really, really great finals, whoever wins the encounter between Australia and South Africa. I think South Africa will not win, but we'll talk about that a little later. But they belong to India, and the fans got their money's worth. At one stage, it looked like not South Africa, but New Zealand would have gotten closer. But like I said, Shami was in top form, and he gave them a great, great victory with that 7-wicket haul. And I must say applaud to India for holding their nerve and bringing off a wonderful victory. And we're looking forward to see what they'll do in the finals. So that's my take. And I hope we have a great encounter for the finals, whoever wins. That's my take.
Thank you, Leon. Well, gentlemen and listeners, that's the wrap up for the post-game match review between India and New Zealand. A very, very healthy exercise, wonderful match, very exciting. And that tells us that we should be having more ODIs. 700, almost 800 runs scored in 100 overs. And yet we sometimes struggle to score that many runs in 5-day test matches. So go figure, as the saying goes. But at any rate, thank you for joining us. And we will say good evening from this section of our program.
Thank you all and good night.
Good night.